Lesson 54 is about reducing by grouping factors equal to 1 and dividing fractions. Now our first question is to reduce this fraction, and it looks pretty complicated. We have in our numerator 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. In our denominator we have 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find out how we can find factors equal to 1, and then we're going to reduce by grouping them. Let's take a nice color here. Let's use our pink today. So what we want to do is we want to find where there's the same number in the numerator and denominator. Because 2 and 2, if we looked at those by themselves, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we're going to make this whole big thing into a 1. This works wherever we have the same number in our numerator and denominator. So we've got one more. We've got 2 divided by 2. That's going to be equal to 1. Now we're left with 2 times 5 and 3 times 5. Oh, 5 and 5. Those must be equal to 1. 5 divided by 5 is the same thing as 1. So now all we have is a 2 and a 3. We found our answer. Our answer must be 2 over 3 because everything else is just a 1. When you have a problem like this, reducing by grouping factors equal to 1 is a very nice method to help you solve quickly and easily. Now our next question says how many 1/2 are in 3/4? And when we look at this question we have a little hint there that tells us what we're going to do. We're going to say 3/4 divided by 1/2. Now perhaps you remember what our three-step method is for solving any fraction problem with division. Three-step method, 1, 2, and 3. If you remember, say it out loud. Hopefully you said copy, then dot, then flip. Copy dot flip. So let's go through that process here. We've got 3/4 divided by 1/2. So our first step is going to be to copy. So we take that first number, 3/4. Our second step is the dot. So we're going to have 3/4, and instead of the division symbol, we now have a multiplication symbol, the dot. And our third step is to flip. So we get 3/4 times 1/2, the reciprocal, or when we flip 1/2, we get 2 over 1. We just flip these numbers here. So now we simplify before we multiply. We know 2 over 4 is the same thing as 1/2, 1 over 2. So we get an answer of 3 times 1, that's equal to 3. And we get an answer of 2 times 1, that's equal to 2. And we know 3/2 must be the same thing as 1 and 1/2. Now in this problem, if you do not like to simplify before you're multiplying, you're missing out. But you can still do that. You're missing out because it's a nice shortcut. But if you don't do that, what you would have done would have been 3/4 times 2 over 1. Multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. We know 6/4 reduces to 3/2. Cut them both in half. They're both even. And 3/2 must be 1 and 1/2. The reason you're missing out, if you're not simplifying before you're multiplying, is because you get this big number in the middle that we didn't have to get when we were working with our first problem where we simplified before we multiplied. But either way, you get the same answer. Now we've got one more problem. How many 3/4 are in 1/2? Okay, if we looked at this one, how many 3/4 are in 1/2? We're going to have 1/2 divided by 3/4. If we looked at that last problem, notice we were asking how many 1/2 are in 3/4. So the problem was reversed. 1/2 divided by 3/4. Can you remember that three-step process? If you can, say it out loud. Step 1, copy. Step 2, dot. Step 3, flip. So we've got 1/2 times 4/3. Simplify before we multiply because we have two even numbers here. We know 4 over 2 is the same thing as 2 over 1. So we're going to get 1 times 2, that's 2. 1 times 3 is 3. 2/3 is our final answer. Our lesson practice will be on page 290. Make sure you've got your notes done and any questions from this lesson written down so you can ask them at the beginning of class. Otherwise, hope you have a nice afternoon.